Welcome to the very first episode of Why Won't They Do What I Tell Them to Do? I'm your host, John Yankanich, and I'm thrilled to kick things off with an incredible guest, Ken King, the Chief Compliance Officer and founder of Serva Health, a company based in South Jersey. Today, Ken and I dive into his journey as an entrepreneur, the challenges of leadership, and how to inspire your team to follow your vision. Ken shares some powerful stories, from navigating a crisis early in his career to building a company that puts patients first. We'll explore key lessons like the importance of radical candor, being honest and caring in how you communicate, and why listening is often the secret to driving change. You'll also hear how Ken's commitment to trust and empowerment fuels Serva Health's success. So get ready for a conversation packed with wisdom and practical takeaways for any leader looking to make a difference. Let's jump in. Good afternoon, Ken. It's nice to be here with you. Ken King is the Chief Compliance Officer with a company out of South Jersey called Serva Health, and I'm very much looking forward to his time together with me here on the podcast, Why Won't They Do What I Tell Them to Do? What I'd like to do is something I'm always interested in, is understanding kind of the mind a little bit of an entrepreneur. And so, Ken, could you tell us a little bit about how you got involved, how the concept of Serva Health started? That's something that's interesting to me. I'm not the entrepreneur, but I love the stories that I've heard about how people got into business for themselves. So maybe tell me a little bit about how that all started.
When it comes to how the company started, both my wife and I had very similar careers to start with, but then we diverged a lot. So we both have undergraduates and masters in engineering. Mine is in physics, just for the record. And we both got MBAs from Wharton, from UPenn. So we were all in sync then. And then she went the consulting route and I went the business route. So I worked my way up to CEO of a private equity-backed company. And I learned a lot in that process. And so how did I become an entrepreneur? It's when I realized that being backed by investors is you don't have the degree of freedom that you would normally like to have if you know what you want to do. And I'm not saying they didn't provide value. They did. They provided a lot of insights. But we decided that we could make better decisions for the niche we were in if we ran it ourselves. So we backed away from the private equity investors and we started a new venture, which is now Serva Health, which you know. And that's our company, and that's how we got to where we are.
So it was a conscious decision that you made to say, look, I'm working for somebody else and I don't have the level of control, or I can't make decisions that I really want to make, or got to go through a lot of people. And you said, I want to do this myself.
Exactly. Yes. We decision making is a very difficult thing when it comes to running a business. And John, you've taught me a lot about this already in the short time we've gotten to know each other. But decision making on how you message your business, or how you present your business externally, or how you any of those kind of things. If you're doing it through the lens of an investor, it's different than if you do it through the lens of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is hungrier. They have visions for what they want to be long term. They have visions of how they're going to get there short term. An investor is looking at ROI only, and it's, they have huge value to the industries, but we got to the point where it wasn't providing value to us in the way that we thought about it.
Hey listeners, John Yankanich here. Are you struggling to get your sales team firing on all cylinders? My fractional sales services can help. I work with businesses like yours to boost sales by relationship building, strategic planning, and proven techniques. Want to take your revenue to the next level? Message me on LinkedIn to get started today. You've got a great educational background, very smart, but you also had a lot of education in growing up in business. Your wife obviously was a consultant, but you were running businesses. So maybe tell me a little bit more about your career that you got to and some of the responsibilities you had, and if you had one or two lessons that you kind of learned along the way, whether it's about leadership, how you deal with people, um, things that maybe as you look back to say, wow, this is something that Ken's got. Part of his special sauce is,
If you've been to all the wars, there's a lot of war stories.
yeah, sure.
Can I just tell you one war story?
Absolutely. I think that would be great.
Okay. It was earlier in my career, but it was relevant. And I think, John, you'll connect with this. So I got hired for a company called PerkinElmer.
Yeah.
And they promoted me to run a factory of 300 people, $300 million business. I don't know why they promoted me to it. I didn't earn it. I looked like the type that could run a company. Right off after we started it, we had a 9/11 happened.
Oh, geez.
And at exactly the same time, we had a transformer that had carcinogenics in it that caught fire and put basically carcinogenic fuel in the air and in the whole factory. So the factory had to shut down. And I was running the whole thing. It was like battlefield promotion too. I called my boss, and I don't want to say this on a podcast, but he wasn't in a state where he could talk to me about how to handle the problem. So he basically said, "Can you handle it?" And I said, "Yes, I can handle it." So I had to work with local PR because it was getting out in the industry. I had to handle 300 employees that didn't know what to do. I had to handle what the strategy was that we didn't miss our objectives for the quarter because we were a public company. And I actually flew a guy out to get a special device that we needed to measure the degree of toxicity in the air. It was about the most. And then just after that, if you don't mind me saying,
Yeah.
our accountant committed suicide.
Oh, geez.
And his wife didn't even know about it. And I had to drive over to her house and tell her.
Oh.
So if you want to talk about my most challenging time, that 3 months in a row, trying to figure out how to get a company back on its feet through 9/11 and through a carcinogenic fire and through the suicide of a respected employee, that was my most challenging 3 months in a row that I ever had.
Ken, I didn't know that, but man, that is, the challenge there has got to be. So welcome to the opportunity that you got, that great opportunity.
Well, and you think about it, isn't it about that in the end? I mean, I know what you're all about, and you're all about helping companies be better at what they do.
Sure.
And sometimes it's handling the adversity that is almost more important than trying to get the functional responsibilities right, because adversities happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to be calm and cool and figure out how to handle them. And I'm not saying I was perfect by any means, but at least I recognized that they needed to be dealt with. And I think you probably have a lot of clients that have things that come up like that.
Yeah. You got trial by fire, it sounds like, being put into that role. Okay, so we're talking about why won't people do what I tell them to do? So one of the things I'd ask you is, you've had this type of incredible experience that has taught you a lot. You have a resilience, obviously, to get back up, fight through that situation, and move on with your career, including starting a company and finding all kinds of success with it. But what I'd ask you to do is think about a time with Serva Health that you knew a certain path you wanted to go, and you couldn't get your team members, your employees, to come along with you. And it didn't seem that hard to you, but it just wasn't working the way you wanted. That frustration.
Yeah. One of them you're actually helping us with right now. So it's one of them is the fact that we've been so successful through word of mouth that we have not put the energy into true business development, you know, sales, basically, the fundamentals of it. And I've been around enough that I know what it takes. And I know you have to put the energy into it. And as I've tried to explain it to the employees that we have that are involved in it, uh, they just keep thinking the business is going to come on its own. And it's not always going to do that. You have to put some additional energy into it. And that's one of the reasons we're working with you right now, is because you're helping us figure out how we can do a better job at relationship selling. You're helping us figure out how we do a better job at trade shows. You're helping us do a better job at, but the point is if here's my view of the world. The world is you have something to sell and someone to sell it. Those are the two fundamental principles in my mind that matter. Something to sell and someone to sell it. The something to sell are the services and products that you have that are valuable to somebody.
Yeah.
The someone to sell it is the person that gets the word out, creates the awareness, does the sales, if you want to boil it down to that.
Sure.
And that's the part we've always not been great at. And that's where our pain point is that we're fantastic at putting together the something to sell, but the someone to sell it, we've not been great at.
Well, then you got one of those two things figured out. And I will tell you, everything that I've learned working with you, you have at Serva Health an incredible solution or set of solutions that are just different. We were talking with some of your team members just earlier today, and they really viewed that there is nobody that does what you do. You are not competitor less, but almost. There's
Pretty
nobody
close,
that can do what you can do, which is a great position to be in. So once we figure out how to get it all rocking and rolling, you should be able to take off, because you've got
if
a
we
great.
knew how to talk to our potential clients, would be fantastic. I'm an engineer, so I always engineer first and think about people second.
Yes.
John, you think about people first and the engineering second. And that's why we're going to be great partners together working on this.
Yeah. That's exactly.
It's like I'll build the great product. I'll build the something to sell, but to someone to sell it, that's not my end of the field. And I bet there's a whole lot of people you work with that have the same issue. They're passionate about what they produce for a product or service.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily the best at how to get the awareness out there.
I think it's pretty rare. So you have got certain talents, skills, abilities, and you've done something that I haven't done, which is found a business. That entrepreneurial streak that you have, and you figured out how to do it. And I don't mean to minimize your business, because it's far more complex than the example I'm going to give. But I love to say business owners know how to make their donuts. That's what they do. But very few of them can do both, know how to make their donuts and know how to make that donut shop thrive completely. And that's where it's valuable to get help from others that have been there and done it.
And that's our gap. Our gap is how to get that. Funny you mentioned donuts. Wasn't there an old commercial that got to get up and make the donuts? I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a great old.
Yeah. I know what we're talking about. We're dating ourselves, Ken.
Yes, I know. It's not good for podcasts for younger people. Yeah. But the point is that's exactly right. It's some people are really great at creating the product or service, but not great at figuring out how to commercialize it. Other people are great at commercializing things, but they don't have a whole lot to commercialize.
Yeah.
And we're in the former category, in that we don't know how to commercialize what we've done well.
Yes.
And there are we're getting better. Like you've given us advice on LinkedIn, you've given us advice on, and we're taking it. And by the way, you're actually become quite annoying because no, this is great for the podcast, by the way. You've become quite annoying because now Lucine, our CEO, by the way,
Yeah.
will not stop. She goes, well, John said this and John said that, and John said this and John said that. So evidently you're running our company now.
Oh no, that's a mistake. But hopefully, there's a couple pearls of wisdom every now and then.
Yeah. Well, you said you didn't start a company. I think you have one now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the kind words. It's very nice of you. So
And actually, she's right. She brings up the points of like relationship selling and how we need to approach the leads we have from the trade shows we've been at.
yeah.
And we're really trying to take it to heart and see what impact it has.
Well,
But I will tell you that we're listening to every word.
I have noticed that, which is actually very impressive. The level of humility that you have to be able to take to say to step outside yourself and then go ahead and take it and apply it right away. I don't usually see that level of adoption that quickly to say, let me take it. You said try this. Let me try it, see how it works, see how it feels, and go. And you guys, I've only been working with you now for about a month,
Yeah.
and and you are already adopting so many ideas that I know things that can work for you, and you're doing it differently than you had before. So that's
Well, I will tell you, arrogance, in my opinion, and I've seen a lot in my life, arrogance is like the number one barrier to progress. You have to be willing to learn from others. You have to be willing to take advice. You have to have some humility. You have to understand that you don't know everything. Yeah, I might have known everything from 20 years ago, but I don't know everything now. I mean, the whole AI conversation, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit, is all new to me. And I'm learning quite a bit about it. And I'm probably in our own company kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, but I'm a novice. And so if you're not a continuous learner, you're not really progressing. You're living on what you did in the past. And it takes work because it's when you get older, it's much more difficult to hold yourself accountable for continuous learning. It gets to the point where you just say, all right, I know what I know and I know a lot and I have a lot of experience and everyone should just listen to me. But that's not good enough. You have to never stop learning.
I think that's a great lesson for people our age and younger individuals as well, because if you stop growing, you're dying. And in today's competitive marketplace, in all senses, you're going to fall behind.
Yeah. And so when you talk about things that you know, it's really important to me because I don't know the stuff you know. And, if you continuous education in business is vital for success. And you go look at any of the great leaders, they never stop trying to learn. They never stop trying to integrate new things into their company that will increase productivity or give them a technology edge or give them a marketing edge or something like that. But you got to keep at it. You can't just settle in.
I think that's great. That's a great lesson for all. I'd like to change gears a little bit and bring up a topic. I remember when we were first getting started and you were introducing me to the situation at Serva Health, what we were doing. And you had a question, something about, you asked me, how do you get the change you're looking for through the people on your team? You said something to that effect. You remember that? You asked, how do you do that? And I said, you're going to have, you can't, it's like eating an elephant. You can't eat the whole thing in one bite. You got to do it bite by bite. But I also raised a concept I'd like to put front and center with us in our discussion today. Do you remember what that concept is? That I shared that it's basically in how you communicate.
Well, I can tell you how I communicate. I can't remember the conversation we had. I have so many philosophies that they come out different every time. So if it's different than what you remember, my apologies. But I will say this, that I believe strongly in high engagement leadership. Okay. You don't do it by email. You don't do it by text message. You don't do it by, you got to, I call it management on your feet. You got to go around and talk to all the key stakeholders and even some of the non-key stakeholders and have a legitimate, honest, open conversation where you listen to them and they can talk, they feel the freedom to share with you, because we have, as leaders, we have blind spots. There's, you know what a blind spot is? It's a blind spot. You don't know you have it.
Don't know it. Yep.
Yeah, you don't know it. The way you get it is by listening. So I'm a great talker. I can talk to anyone about anything at any time. But sometimes you got to know when to just stop talking and listen.
Well,
And that to me is how, if you want to make change in your company, listen. I know that sounds weird because it sounds like you should talk to say the change, but sometimes change comes best through listening.
you know, when you're making a great point, and I use this when I talk about sales, but it's also about leadership, because what you're doing is influencing. You're influencing somebody, you're persuading somebody to buy from you, but you're also persuading or influencing people to follow your lead to do what has to be done as a leader. So it's actually a very similar skill. And that drive to persuade is super important. So you actually almost answered your question just there, which tells me you already had the answer. But I'll tell you what I shared with you that first meeting when we were all together, via Zoom. And I brought up the concept called radical candor.
Yes, you did. And I told you when I did a chat GPT thing,
Yeah.
and the number one thing on the list, I wrote in, how can I develop a better strategy for my company?
Yeah.
And what's it called again?
Radical candor.
Radical candor came up top.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to have John teach me that because I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So for those, watching, radical candor is a philosophy and how you communicate. Basically, you're looking at two axes. One is showing people how much you care, so from little to a lot, and then how honest are you with them, meaning you don't always praise when praise is really indicated, and you don't also share bad news or direction that has to be shared to get the most out of people. So that level of honesty is also critically important. And the quadrant out of 4 boxes, the quadrant that is completely caring and completely honest, is radical candor. And the way you can get change is you demonstrate that. If you're just flippant with it and you're not showing care, people won't recognize, and you don't develop trust that way. So you got to be caring about how you, then people got to believe that. So you have the answers. I taught you about this concept, radical candor, which was new. You hadn't heard of it, but you also just told me just before you had some of the answers, meaning you got to go around. I used to call it management by walking around. You said management by being there.
The way I stay connected to my organization. I mean, it could be easy for me. I'm an owner. I'm like the top boss kind of guy. It could be easy for me to just, enjoy the benefits of that. But that's not what excites. What gets me motivated is knowing that we have everyone lined up, pointing in the same direction with the same vision, and we're creating something beautiful and important to other people, like patients and doctors and that kind of thing. And I have to tell you, the being transparent with everyone there's two kinds of leadership that I've come accustomed to. There's the ones that hold everything pretty close to their chest. I'm not that, as you know. And then there's those that are very open and candid about what the situation is, where we're headed, why we're doing it, what's in it for everyone, who are the key stakeholders, what are the KPIs, how do we know we're successful, how do we not know we're successful, what are we looking at? And I have those conversations every single day with the people that can make a difference in my company. And to me, that's management by walking around. And I have it all up here, but I can't write it all down. And even if I do, nobody reads it. So talking to people makes all the difference. but you got to be an engaged leader.
Engagement. So you said high engagement management by walking around using radical candor. And I'll bring one more concept into that. I said the same thing about sales and leadership. Well, there's a reason you have two ears and one mouth. And whether I'm riding with a sales
I
rep
love that.
or whether I'm, talking to, a leader and helping them become a stronger leader, use them in that proportion. Listen more than you talk. When you do talk, you got to be transparent. You got to share appropriately, but you got to, you're sharing from a caring perspective and you're sharing fully. You're praising when praise is due. You don't, I've worked with leaders before that just don't have the wherewithal to think and stop and say, that was a really good job. That lifts people up so much when they're recognized for something that they've done, and just blowing past it undervalues an opportunity that you would have had from a leadership standpoint. And then it also gives you some of the ability, the right to challenge when something didn't go as expected and maybe could have been done differently. And if you hold that back, I know there are some leaders who get very they've been scolded for being too direct and negative. So they've learned, oh, I better not do this. I better hold it back. Well, if you're holding it back, others don't know really where they stand, and that's not fair to them too. So radical candor is really a mechanism about how you can build trust with your team so you can get the results that you're looking for.
Can I give you a little reflection on that?
Sure, please.
A lot of leaders are so focused on the problem they're trying to solve that they forget that the people that need to solve it need nurturing in order to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. So I have seen it so many times where the leader focuses on the problem alone, mm-hmm. and not on the people or process that's required to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's you walk around, you talk to them, and before you know it, you're going to have the right team in place to solve the problem. I mean, we had a problem today. It was a pretty big problem. I don't want to say what it is. That's how big it is. Yeah. But it was one that we have to solve, and there was a lot of hesitancy.
Yes.
The way you say the word.
Yes, you got it.
to actually address it head on. And I said, we have to call the client right away. We have to talk to them about the problem. We have to talk to them about what we're doing to solve it. But it's that candor part of it that I think makes business really work. Yeah. And if you don't mind me just adding one thing to it, to me, our number one product is confidence. And underlying confidence is trust.
Yeah.
If companies don't trust you, then you're really not going to get very far. You might get past the first layer, but you're not going to establish a long-term relationship. Mm-hmm. Trust, consistency, being true to your word, doing what you said you would do, being honest if something doesn't go right, because something's not going to go right sometimes.
Yeah.
To me, that is running a business.
There's a lot of wisdom, and I will tell you in the model that I've developed that if you want to get accountability, which every business owner realizes, okay, if everybody does their job the way that they're supposed to, we're gonna fly, we're gonna take off, everything's gonna be great. And the problem is getting people to accept that accountability. But where it all starts, without going into the whole model, is trust. You've got to trust in the people that you've brought onto the team, that they're going to be able to do something, maybe something that you wouldn't have thought of in a way you wouldn't have done, but they're going to get the job done for you. And in concert with everybody together, you're able to deliver some incredible results and get accountability that is what you as a founder and owner are hoping for your business.
One of the things you've kind of leaned us towards is you've got to let that leader be the leader. If you micromanage them with every step, they never get a chance I mean, I even think a little failure is not a bad thing for a leader. Let them learn from it.
That's
But you got to give them the full ownership of the job you gave them.
you're hitting on a lot of the concepts that I use in the model. So that
Yeah,
you're
well,
exactly
I'm
right.
just repeating what you told me. So
Oh, okay. Well, then you've learned well. So
I'm
I've
like
lived
Luke
this. I lived
Skywalker,
this.
I guess.
Yes, I've lived this in my own business and working with my partner, who's one of my best friends, a guy I wrestled with in college, had a similar challenge that a lot of business owners have, and they don't know how to get it out of the other people. And it's interesting. You talk about ownership there. The major difference between the owner, employee, the founder, and their employees is one thing: ownership. And when you want to be accountable, you're accountable because you own it. The employee doesn't own the business. So you've got to get them to be accountable. You've got to get them to own whatever the challenges, whatever the responsibilities are, to own it. And if they own it, they have a much higher chance of actually getting accountability, getting what you want out of the business.
Well, and it makes them happier too, because if someone feels invested in something, I mean, if
Yeah.
you showed up every day and your job was to put widget A and widget B on some kind of assembly line, you just can't wait for 5 o'clock so you can
Yeah.
go home.
Yeah.
But
Punching the
if
clock.
you know you're having an impact and you know you're part of a solution and you know you're making a difference and you know you're being listened to, isn't that the definition of loving your job and
That's
wanting to be there in the morning?
that definition of empowerment. You are
Yeah.
empowering them to take ownership so they can be accountable. And that is a great way to be as a leader, as an owner, as a founder. To get the most out of your people, you have to do that.
Oh, and sometimes you got to take a leap with some people. They don't show it right up quick, and you got to say, all right, I'm going to let them take this thing and see where they go with it. I'm going to say 70% of the time it works out that they become a better version of themselves as a result of you giving them a chance.
Yeah.
30% of the time, you realize you didn't make the right decision. So
Whatever the percentages are, there are some that are hits and there are some that are miss.
exactly.
It's interesting. You talk another concept that I like to refer to is you've got to delegate some of that authority and decision making and stuff like that. Not abdicate. There's a big difference between delegate and abdicate. Delegate and
I
abdicate.
want to hear the difference.
Well, so when you delegate something to someone, you're giving, look, you own this. I expect you to take
Oh,
this
you're
and you can run
tasking
with
someone.
it. And you figure out how to do it,
Yeah.
but it's yours. As opposed to, I don't want to do this and I'm just going to let it go and you do it and I don't follow up on it and I give it away and I don't make sure it's getting done the way that it's being done successfully. That's an abdication of a responsibility and you don't want to do that. And the last thing I just say about it is you can't, when you delegate, you've got to be smart about what you're delegating. So you always want to give your employees an opportunity to challenge themselves and perhaps fail. What you can't do as an owner is give them the opportunity to challenge themselves, fail on something that is could be catastrophic for your company. So you've got to have the wisdom to know when to do that and when not to. You can't just say, well, you can handle our most important customer that is 50% of our revenue. And if you lose it, okay, we'll be out of business. But that might not be the time to delegate and
Well,
really empower.
isn't that the job of a leader, after all, is to have the wisdom to know the difference?
You're exactly right. Another truism there. Very good, Ken.
And that's, you got to know what things you can, how you handle and up and, I'm not saying every employee. Some employees are there and they're there to just do it like intake for a medical form.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. They don't want to do anything else. They don't have any aspirations. But for those employees that have aspirations, it's knowing just the right line to draw, like how much responsibility to give them,
Yeah.
where if they stumble a little, it's not going to crush you. But
Yes.
you give them a chance to succeed and you stay with them, you engage with them. And I've seen so many times in my career absolutely phenomenal leaders develop out of what were individual contributors to begin with, because we gave them opportunities. I have one just quick story.
Yep.
So Dimitri, who you've talked to,
Sure.
he came in he was doing reporting for us to create reports. And we went in a conference room and I was telling him about how we were doing things. And he actually put his fist on the table and said, I know how to do this better than you're doing it now. And I was kind of shocked because I've been around leadership a long time. Very few people have put a fist on a table in front of me. So I was like, okay, you have my attention. What do you have in mind? To this day, that's our best product we have on the market, is what he created from that day.
Well, you had wisdom there to let him explain and create. And now you have it.
Yeah. Now we have it.
You could have made a choice not to do that.
Right. And it's happened other times as well, but those are the times when I'm trying to dictate what we're supposed to do strategy-wise, and someone's got a passion about something where I make the decision to close my mouth and open my ears, just to go back to what you advised earlier.
I want to thank you, Ken, for joining me today. It's been a really engaging and interesting podcast. You have shared a number of life lessons and business leadership lessons that I think are really valuable, and I really enjoyed our time together. Plus, I really do enjoy working with Serva Health and your whole team. So it's been great.
Well, it's very helpful to have a guardian angel on our shoulders. So thank you, John.
Well, you got it. So I really appreciate it. Ken King with Serva Health, Chief Compliance Officer and founder. And it's been a pleasure working with you and talking to you today, Ken. Well, folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Why Won't They Do What I Tell Them to Do? If you're a business leader with a story to share or lessons that can inspire others, I'd love to have you on the show. Reach out to me directly on LinkedIn to tell me about yourself and why you'd be a great fit. Let's keep the conversation going and help more leaders get their teams moving in the right direction. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.